Have you ever wondered why your relationships only seem to work when you stay silent, concede, or shrink yourself just to keep the peace? That's the trap we're unpacking today, the kind of love that demands you become smaller to survive. Right from the start, recognize this. It's not love. It's a survival game disguised as devotion. You know it. The self-sacrifice love where you dim your light so they don't feel overshadowed. And it's toxic, even if it feels normal. Picture how it sneaks in. In those first dates or early months, everything's electric but fragile. One offhand comment sparks tension, so you pull back, edit your words, soften your stance to avoid the crack. Suddenly, that's the pattern. Relationships where you gotta dim your light become your default. This isn't accidental. It forms from invisible scars, maybe a family where speaking up meant chaos, or past partners who vanished at the first sign of conflict. So you adapt, making emotional diminishment your shield. It's smart, in a way. Why risk everything when shrinking buys you time? But here's the twist that hits hard. The mechanism locks in through rewards. Each concession smooths the day, tricks your brain into thinking this is harmony. They get comfort, you get scraps of security. Hidden power dynamics at play, where your silence fuels their ease and love that low-key shrinks you feels like the only option. Pause and think, why does this feel so damn necessary? Because the alternative, demanding space for your full self, threatens the whole setup. In a swipe right world of endless options, who wants to start over? Better to concede, right? Wrong. That's the lie sustaining it. Signs you're shrinking yourself in love? They're everywhere once you look. Your opinions sidelined in decisions, your needs whispered instead of stated. It accumulates quietly until one day you're staring at a version of yourself that's half gone. The emotional cost of constant compromise eats away, but admitting it, that would shatter the illusion. This pattern thrives in Western cultures too, US, Canada, UK, where we're sold independence, but relationships demand these unspoken trades. Think of the rom-coms glorifying sacrifice or social media feeds pushing perfect couples who never clash. It's threaded into therapy speak trends, yet rarely called out for what it is, a slow self-erasure. And the pain? It's that gut punch you ignore, the realization you've traded your spark for stability. Why do relationships only work when I stay silent? Because you've been conditioned to believe it requires it. But deep down, you sense the fraud. Real connection shouldn't force you to vanish. The cycle self-perpetuates with every unchallenged moment. A disagreement arises, you swallow it. Reinforcement hits, peace restored. Over years, it becomes autopilot, a hidden negotiation where you're always the one folding. Who benefits? They do, staying unchallenged. You do, avoiding loneliness, at least on the surface. Breaking the quiet? That's the unspoken threat keeping it alive. In fast-paced North American life, where breakups are a tweet away, this strategy masquerades as maturity. But it's not. It's fear in fancy wrapping. As we wrap this first dive, see it clearly. This isn't a flaw in you or them. It's a mechanism born from survival, sustained by habit, and deemed essential because the cost of change feels steeper than the slow fade. Yet, naming it shifts something, doesn't it? Let's dig deeper into how this pattern embeds itself so firmly that breaking it feels impossible. The real kicker? It doesn't just happen between you and one person, it mirrors a broader script we've all inherited. Look closer at the hidden negotiations playing out. You concede on small things first, where to eat, what to watch, whose friends to prioritize. Then it escalates. Your career moves paused, your boundaries softened, your emotions muted to avoid the ripple. Love that low-key shrinks you turns these trades into currency, where your diminishing buys temporary calm. And who really wins in this exchange? On the surface, both. The relationship glides without waves, but peel it back. One side stays expansive, unchallenged, while the other contracts to fit the space left. It's not always intentional malice. Often it's unconscious comfort in the status quo. They benefit from the ease, you from the illusion of unbreakable bond. This reframes what we've been sold as healthy compromise. Most content gets it wrong by celebrating sacrifice as noble love. But here's the dangerous truth. True connection doesn't require one person to vanish for the other to thrive. Self-sacrifice love masquerades as depth, yet it's often just imbalance dressed up as devotion. In North American dating culture, swipe apps, ghosting fears, the pressure to couple up quick, this pattern explodes. We're bombarded with ideals of effortless pairs who never clash, feeding the myth that friction means failure. So, shrinking yourself in love becomes the shortcut. Stay silent to dodge the swipe left reality. The emotional diminishment builds like debt, interest compounding and resentment you can't name. You start questioning, why do relationships only work when I stay silent, when I fold first? Because the mechanism rewards it. Every concession gets a hit of relief, a longer stay. It's addictive, this short-term peace over long-term authenticity. Think about the power dynamics lurking underneath. One voice grows louder by default as yours fades. Decisions tilt their way, plans revolve around their comfort. Signs you're shrinking yourself in love show up in the mirror. Exhaustion from over-adapting, a nagging sense you're performing a role. The emotional cost of constant compromise, a slow hollowing out, where your spark dims to keep theirs burning bright. Yet it feels essential because we've reframed it as love's proof. Movies, songs, social feeds glorify the one who gives everything until nothing's left. In reality, relationships where you gotta dim your light sustain on this myth, trapping both in a fragile equilibrium. Challenge it, and the whole thing wobbles. That's the fear keeping the pattern locked. The unspoken pain sharpens here, carrying the weight of being half present in your own life. You've mastered the art of concession, but lost touch with what full presence feels like. Why do relationships only work when I stay silent? Hits different when you see it's not universal. It's engineered in mismatched dynamics. This isn't about blaming the other or yourself. It's a survival mechanism refined over time, one that served when vulnerability felt risky. In fast-paced Western life, careers, apps, endless options, stability trumps growth for many. So the shrinking continues, a quiet pact renewed daily. As this middle layer unfolds, notice how the pattern protects itself with layers of justification. It's just compromise. We're so compatible. But compatibility born from one-sided erasure isn't real. It's curated. Love that demands you become smaller isn't expanding, it's containing. Seeing the mechanism this clearly stirs something uneasy, doesn't it? Not resolution yet, just the raw outline of how deeply it's woven in. Now, as we reach the core of this pattern, something sharper comes into focus. The most unsettling part isn't the shrinking itself, it's how convincingly it poses as the highest form of love. We've been taught that devotion means giving until there's little left of you, that real partnership is measured by how much one person can erase to make room for the other. But stare at it long enough, and the reframing hits like a quiet earthquake. Love that demands you become smaller isn't love expanding, it's love contracting around one person's comfort. This is the dangerous truth most content avoids saying plainly. Self-sacrifice love isn't noble, it's a myth that keeps imbalance alive. It convinces you that your diminishing is proof of depth, when really it's evidence of mismatch. Relationships where you gotta dim your light don't survive because they're strong, they survive because one person learned to disappear early and often. Feel that for a second. The emotional cost of constant compromise isn't maturity, it's slow-motion self-betrayal. You traded pieces of yourself for the promise of permanence, only to wake up years later wondering who allowed this version of you to exist. Why relationships only work when I stay silent isn't a personal failing, it's the symptom of a dynamic built on unequal emotional labor. And here's where the mechanism reveals its full cruelty. The more you shrink, the more the relationship depends on your smallness to function. Your full voice, your unedited needs, your bright edges, they become threats to the equilibrium. So the pattern protects itself by making authenticity feel dangerous, selfish even. Love that low-key shrinks you rewires your instincts until expansion feels like sabotage. In Western culture especially, where individualism is preached, but partnership often demands conformity, this hits hardest. We're surrounded by stories of the good partner who adapts endlessly, who puts the relationship first at all costs. Social media amplifies it. Couples who never show conflict, feeds full of "we just work," without revealing the silent concessions underneath. Signs you're shrinking yourself in love get normalized as being easy to love. But easy to love shouldn't mean easy to erase. That's the fracture point. The unspoken pain crystallizes here, realizing you've been surviving a connection rather than thriving in one. You've perfected the art of containment, but lost the experience of being uncontained. The emotional diminishment isn't just a side effect, it's the foundation keeping the whole thing standing. This pattern doesn't need villains. It forms between ordinary people using ordinary survival tools in a world that makes real vulnerability expensive. One person leans into comfort, the other into concession. Both get something, stability, avoidance of loneliness, but only one gets to remain whole. As we close this examination, the clarity lands without comfort. Love that only works when you're smaller isn't working, it's waiting. Waiting for the day the concessions run out, or the resentment overflows, or the diminished self finally refuses to fold again. Real connection doesn't require disappearance. It requires space for two full people. Anything less is just an arrangement wearing love's clothing. If this hits something you haven't named before, if it made you see the mechanism in your own history, don't keep it to yourself. Drop a comment with the moment you first noticed yourself shrinking. Be brutally honest. Your words might be the mirror someone else needs right now. Share this with a friend who's always just compromising, the one who jokes about having no opinions left. They need to hear they're not alone in this pattern. And if you're done scrolling past truths that actually shift something inside you, hit subscribe to For My Ex. This channel doesn't do surface fixes or feel-good fluff. We name the patterns that quietly destroy people, the ones no one else says out loud. Subscribe now, because next time, it might be the recognition that finally sets you free. You'll thank yourself later. See you in the next one.